Good evening. The council will convene for the purpose of receiving public speakout testimony. We are joined in the chamber by my colleague, Ward 8 City Councilor Zeta Govan. We're also joined remotely by Councilor Whitfield, Councilor Walsh, Councilor Perez, and Councilor Davila. If I could ask the detail officer to just quiet the hall for us so that we'll be able to hear the public testimony. Thank you. No, just for me. All right, and the first individual that we have signed up to speak is Renata Janazowski. And as Ms. Janazowski makes her way to the podium, I'll just remind guests that we ask folks to limit their comments to 3 minutes to ensure that we have the opportunity for everybody to be heard. Please state your name and address for the record. Oh, I'm so sorry. If you could just lift that microphone and speak directly into it.
For having me and my neighbor at this meeting. I am long-time resident of Springfield for past 30 years. I work in the city, and I'm thankful for many things which our city provides for us, among them garbage, trash, and garden waste removal. However, I live in my current address for past 30 years, which is off Parker Street and off Mohawk Street. The conditions of our streets are terrible, and I have few pictures, and I don't know if you would like to see it. Some of the pictures are from last year for summer 2022, after the sweepers when they go through our city, and yes, they do usually once or twice a year, which I'm thankful for it. However, our street conditions are so bad with so many potholes that everything what is in the road and underneath the surface of the potholes, it's basically moved to our street. So before the city sweepers come, I usually go with the rake all the debris, put in the beautiful big city bins, which city removes. However, after the sweepers, that's what we are left with. So I go again and clean the street again in front of my house. So those are the pictures from 2 years, from last year's summer. Those are pictures from this year and from December. And yes, I'm thankful to the city of Springfield. Whenever I make a call, there is a huge pothole in front of my house. The next day, the city truck comes and patch it up usually with loose asphalt. Doesn't work because with the weather usually freezes or freezes. Within a week we have the same situation. People lost their tires on the street, and it's not safe. At this point, it's becoming really not safe for even children, adults who are walking on our streets, and we have a lot of pedestrians. So I don't know, do you want me to leave this with you?
Sure,
And maybe,
Councilor Govan can receive the
budget,
photographs, and we'll ensure they're distributed.
Maybe in the budget, the city of Springfield will be able to find some funds to pave the streets. Like I mentioned at the beginning, I live at that street for past 30 years, and our streets were never paved, only patched up. The holes are patched up, and they are not only Westbrook, it's Mohawk, Brookside Circle, and the whole stretch from Mary Corbin and up to the South Branch Parkway. However, South Branch Parkway was paved twice within the 30 years. So, like I said, if that could be somehow looked into, I know the city has more important, maybe other project to finance, but maybe we can find some and look into it. Also, if like little curb could be made, that will be just awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Janazowski, and we'll follow up with you through the Maintenance and Development Committee and your ward counselor. The next individual signed up for Speak Out is Pastor W.C. Watson. Pastor Watson.
I'm just getting into the building, so as I catch my breath, I want to thank the council and the city for this opportunity to speak on a matter pertaining to my church, our church, Canaan Baptist Church of Christ. We have received several notices from the Associate City Solicitor regarding the planned intersection improvement project at Carew and St. James. We're thankful to Attorney Shuchuk for that. In the notices, he has outlined the overall plans for the intersection improvement project. He's pointed out to us that in connection with that project, there will be a temporary eminent domain procedure of some 5 years. And in addition to that overall objective, he's pointed out that compensation has been considered for all of those, immediately affected, businesses, churches in that immediate area. He's pointed out, for instance, that considerations affecting the compensation will be the square footage of the property involved. Not only that, it will be the extent of inconvenience to those associated with that organization or agency or church, and then the impact of the project's work on that entity. And he included in one of the letters the actual compensation that we would receive at Canaan Baptist Church of Christ. Now, when we heard the figure, we thought it was a typo or an error. The amount that was offered to us for this 5-year eminent domain procedure is $1,675. $1,600, $1,675. We thought that was probably meant to be a per month offer, but it is for the total project. And the inconvenience we will endure as a church, as a business entity there, commercial entity there at that corner. Now, we responded as I convened with the officers of my church and members. We responded to Attorney Shuchuk with a number of points in terms of how we were a little disturbed and maybe perturbed with such a low figure. And we counted really a meager amount for what is being planned. Several of the points that we made, and I'll just share this with you, is for one, we have an extensive and significant investment on that corner, the corner of Hobart and Carew Street, in terms of our church. Within the last 18 to 19 years, we did a major renovation where we tripled the size of our facility and invested over $1 million in that church project. So that was first and foremost a concern of ours. Certainly we are invested in it in terms of a house of worship as a congregation, but in literal terms, we have in these last 20 years or less invested $1 million. That certainly should have been considered as they appraised the property and offered us compensation. Another point we pushed back on regarded this. As we're looking at this eminent domain offer, we understand it is scheduled for some 5 years. And I would say that makes the offer even more of an issue for us. Because if you're looking at having a 5-year eminent domain proceeding or request or requirement on your property, as we look at the $1,675, that amounts to really $335 per year. And so I think that makes it even more of a disturbing figure to consider. These other 2 points, and I'll be concluded. We would also point out that we're a very active congregation there at our church, and we hold worship services at this point, both inside and outside. The outside services were brought on due to the pandemic. So for us to have a major road project scheduled in the area when the warm weather comes and we are holding outside services, we're looking at that disruption factor, just along with the overall impact that the project will have. Not just that we'll be comfortable to be inside as they do the work on the outside, but we will be disrupted possibly, with respect to our outside services that are held in our parking lot. And then we will point out that as a number of organizations, churches, would probably understand, we're just emerging from the pandemic of several years ago, or we're really, in a sense, still in the midst of it. But our congregation is just now restoring itself, and a lot of the programs that we have held and sponsored in the past are now coming back online. And there's a potential of this project being disrupted. I'm sure everyone realizes that the pandemic had such a lingering effect and devastating effect that many businesses, certainly houses of worship, were in a sense diminished in terms of their attendance. They lost many of their members. I'm sure a lot of businesses lost patrons. And so we're looking at the fact that this type of disruption could have an adverse impact over and above what it normally would have due to the pandemic. And so the bottom line for it all is that we at Canaan Baptist Church of Christ, and I'm pleased that several of our officers are here in attendance with me, as a collective body, as a church, we are concerned that the $1,675 offered as compensation for our inconvenience, for the disruption, and for the imposition of that work in our area is a meager and paltry amount to offer to us, considering the factors that I've just shared with you. And so we would have everyone take notice of that, of our complaint and our concern. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pastor Watson. The next individual signed up to speak is Samuel King Jr. Mr. King.
Good evening. My name is Samuel King Jr., and I'm the chairman of the Deacon Board at Canaan Baptist Church of Christ. And I just want to follow up on what Reverend Watson has indicated. So on behalf of the Canaan Baptist Church of Christ, we're taking a look at how the intersection improvement project will impact the whole neighborhood, because we are located on 1430 Carew Street. Then you have St. James Avenue, and you have quite a number of businesses and services located in that area, and it's a heavily populated area as well. And I wanted to mention that, subsequently, should the project last more than 1 year, if it's up to 5 years, should the church be compensated 5 times the amount that Pastor Watson has just mentioned, and not just that one particular offer. And I would also like to say that the church is basically the cornerstone, has been a cornerstone in that area since the 1990s. And we got to take a look at the type of parking that would be available, not just for our church, but even for the school across the street, Pottinger Elementary School. Because right now, many of the parents who come and pick up their kids, they park in our parking lot just about every day, 5 days a week. So those are the comments I wanted to make, but most of all, should this project go beyond 1 year, if it does last up to 5 years, would the church be able to be compensated 5 times that $1,675? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. And the final individual signed up to speak out is Alfonso Calhoun. Mr. Calhoun.
Good evening. I basically want to reiterate what the pastor said. This eminent domain, take it or leave it, $1,675 is paltry for the work that's going to be done. It's going to take 5 years. But I have a safety concern as well. I mean, with widening the street, you have a junior high school or school right next door. Is there any plans to put a light there, a traffic light?
Mr. Calhoun, I can't answer questions about the proposal during public speak out, but this is scheduled to come up under items 8 and 9, so we certainly can raise any questions at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Calhoun. Seeing no further individuals signed up to speak out, we appreciate everybody who did come out to share their testimony, and the council will stand adjourned until 7 o'clock. Good to go. All right. The council will come to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Walsh.
Present.
Present. Counselor Fenton.
Present.
Present. Counselor Perez. Absent. Counselor Whitfield. Absent. Counselor Govan.
Present.
Present. Counselor Allen.
Present.
Present. Counselor Brown. Absent. Counselor Hurst.
Present.
Present. Counselor Click Bruce. Absent. Counselor Edwards. Present. Counselor Curran.
Present.
Present. Counselor Davila.
Present.
Present. Counselor Letterman.
Present. Will members and guests please rise and join us in a moment of silence? This moment of silence is held in the memory of former Ward 5 City Councilor Clodo Concepcion, who passed away over the weekend. Thank you. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we proceed to reports of committee, I'm going to call a very brief recess because I think we may be having a slight technical issue with our remote participants. So I'm going to call a brief recess and we'll reconvene in just 2 minutes. We need to switch meeting links. And so the meeting link will be sent to you by Kelly right now. It is a meeting ID that ends in 1918. So this meeting that you are currently logged into is going to end. We are then going to log into 1918, the link for which should be sent to you by Kelly at this moment. If you have any issues, please call the City Council office and we'll reconvene once everybody is back in. We'll bring the council back to order, and Madam Clerk, I'll ask you to call the roll once again. The full roll.
Counselor Walsh.
Present.
Present, Counselor Fenton.
Present.
Present, Counselor Perez.
Present.
Present, Counselor Whitfield.
Present.
Present, Counselor Govan.
Present.
Present, Counselor Allen.
Present.
Present, Counselor Brown.
Present.
Present, Counselor Hurst.
Present.
Present, Counselor Click Bruce. Absent, Counselor Edwards.
Present.
Present, Counselor Curran.
Present.
Present, Counselor Davila.
Present.
Present, Counselor Letterman.
Present. Thank you all for your patience. Let the record reflect that Councilors Walsh, Whitfield, Brown, Perez, and Davila are participating remotely. And with that, we will begin the agenda for this evening. Are there any reports of committee? Councilor Allen.
Thanks, Mr. President. The Finance Committee met this afternoon, at 5:30. We had a meeting, went almost till 6:30. We went over most of the items on tonight's agenda. Most of them had a finance implication. The significant things we talked about were the 3 contract collective bargaining agreements that were presented to us by Mr. Mahoney. All of them went seamlessly through. There was no tough questions or no questions that couldn't be answered. Mr. Mahoney did a nice job of presenting all 3 of them to us. After that, there were a few questions, but nothing that needs to be mentioned here. And then after that, we went over the other items, the contract term over 3 years for fiber optics and the issues at the expenses for the project at St. James Avenue or Carew Street. And then the last item was the order to use $3.7 million to eliminate the trash fee. So all of those items were discussed. At the end of the meeting, there were 2 members of the committee still there, Councilor Govan, who was seated next to me here, and myself, and we voted, the 2 of us, to approve the items that had come before us. I'm sure there'll be maybe some questions here tonight, but the meeting was successful. We had about 17 people there. Pretty much all the people we needed there to answer questions were there, and the meeting went well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Allen. Are there any further reports of committee? Seeing none, without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll to accept the report.
On accepting the report, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce. Absent, Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient and the report is accepted. Madam Clerk, please call the first item.
The first item is a petition for Eversource, Cass and Franklin Street.
Is there anyone here to speak to this petition? Director Signoli.
Good evening, councilors. Chris Signoli, DPW Director. Eversource Electric has put forth a petition to install 50 feet of conduit and 2 handholds at the intersection of Cass Street and Franklin Street to be able to service the business on the corner at that location.
Thank you, Director Signoli. Are there any questions? Seeing none, without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll to approve the petition.
On approving the petition, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield. Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce. Absent, Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The petition is approved. Madam Clerk, please call the next item. Thank you, Director.
The next item is a Mass in Motion grant increase, no match required, in the amount of $29,053.
Is there anyone here to speak to the grant? Deputy Caffa.
Thank you, Mr. President. Lindsay Hackett, Deputy CAFO, 80 Tamarack Drive. This is an increase to the Health Department's Mass in Motion grant. It's an increase of $29,000, bringing the total award to $139,905. It's a competitive grant they received annually for the past several years. And the purpose is to implement policies, systems, and environmental change strategies to create a healthy environment as a way to prevent and reduce obesity, chronic disease, and associated risk factors.
Thank you, Deputy Caffa. Are there any questions? Seeing no questions, without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll to accept the grant.
On accepting the grant, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce, absent. Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The grant is accepted. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
The next item is an order for bills of prior year from various departments in the amount of $919.03.
Deputy Caffa.
Thank you. This order is to pay 2 prior year fiscal bills, one for the law department, one for assessors, totaling just under $1,000.
Are there any questions? Seeing no questions, without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the bill of prior year.
On the bill of prior year, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce, absent. Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The order is approved. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Next item is collective bargaining agreement ratification for the Services Employees International Union, which is civil engineers.
Director Mahoney.
Good evening, Councilors. Bill Mahoney, Director of Human Resources and Labor Relations. There are 10 employees in this bargaining unit. They represent the engineering aides, the civil engineer 1, the civil engineer 3, and the civil engineer 4. Negotiations began on September 9, 2021. We had 7 bargaining sessions, and these were followed up by approximately 9 mediation sessions. This is a series of 2 contracts, as we typically do. The first contract covers the period of July 1st, 2021 to June 30th of 2022. The second contract covers the period of July 1st, 2022 to June 30th of 2025. The COLAs in this contract are 2%, 2%, 2%, and 2%. There's a $600 signing bonus for approximately 3 of the employees that do not have a Bachelor's of Science in Civil Engineering or Environmental Engineering. For the ones that do have that degree in Civil Engineering or Environmental Engineering, there's an increase of $15 per week in their check. We cleaned up the agency fee language in this contract as a result of the Janus Supreme Court decision. We increased the boot allowance from $150 a year to $175. We added Juneteenth as a holiday, and that pretty much sums up the whole contract here. It's been ratified by the bargaining unit. We'd ask that the council vote in favor of it.
Thank you, Director Mahoney. Are there any questions for the director? Seeing no questions, Madam Clerk, without objection, please. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Perez.
No, I'm sorry. No.
All right. Seeing no questions or debate at this time, Madam Clerk, without objection, please call the roll on approval. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to say that after attending, I hope I'm not on mute, that after attending the finance meeting, I plan on supporting all three contracts because it's obvious a lot of good work was done on both sides.
Thank you, Councilor Walsh. Is there any further questions, deliberation, or debate? Seeing none, without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on approval of the ratification.
On approval of the ratification, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce, absent. Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The ratification is approved. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Next item is the collective bargaining agreement ratification for the International Brotherhood of Police, IBPO 364.
Director Mahoney.
Councilors, this bargaining unit represents approximately 400 employees. It includes everyone under the rank of sergeant, that's a sworn officer. Negotiations began on April 28th, 2021. We had approximately 14 bargaining sessions. We had 2 mediation sessions. And during the period that we were negotiating, there was a separate set of negotiations between the city and the United States Department of Justice, in which we entered into a settlement agreement. While we were doing that round of negotiations with them, we were mining that settlement agreement for labor relations issues. So we were drafting our proposal so that we would be consistent with that settlement agreement. There are 2 contracts again with this settlement agreement, this negotiation. The first one covers the period of July 1st, 2020 to June 30th of 2021. The second contract covers the period of July 1st, 2021 to June 30th of 2024. The wage increases are 3.75% each year for 4 years. And I'll briefly walk you through our tentative agreement with the union, which has been ratified by the IBPO. It's a very lengthy agreement, but there's been some significant changes to make sure we're in compliance with that DOJ settlement agreement. So one thing we did is we expanded the number of days in order to bring charges from 90 days to 120 days, and there's language in there that if we exceed the 120 days and we have good reason, so to speak, we can still bring the charges. The Internal Investigations Unit and the FIT, the Force Investigation Team, those interviews with their members will be recorded at our discretion. The IAU attorney, at the discretion of the employer, may be required to make a recommendation to a hearing officer or the superintendent, but not the Board of Commissioners. Disciplinary hearings will be audio or video recorded at our discretion, and that'll be made available to the compliance evaluator. There's going to be times when the compliance evaluator won't be able to attend a session, so we'll have a tape for them. Effective after, we would increase the detail rate from step 5 to step 7 of the contract. We've added Juneteenth as a holiday. We've increased the number of carryover days for vacation by a couple days. Significantly, we've added name tags to the uniform. We've added a performance evaluation policy. We've added a field training officer policy. We've added a new body-worn camera policy, replacing the one that we had previously. And we've included a disciplinary policy and matrix.
Thank you, Director Mahoney. Does that conclude your remarks?
It does.
Thank you. We'll move now to any deliberation amongst the council, starting with Councilor Whitfield, followed by Councilor Fenton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Bill, I have a couple, Attorney Mahoney, I have a couple of questions. First, I wanted to say you guys did do a lot of great work in this ratification, and it shows. I just want some clarification, as I mentioned in the Finance Subcommittee as well. But first, before that, what were the changes to the body-worn camera policy?
So it's actually, I think, been through 3. There was an original body-worn camera policy that was negotiated into the collective bargaining agreement. when we first did that 4 years ago or so. There was a second version that came in, and then there was a third version that came in. And with the third version, that had not been fully bargained. So we bargained the third version in, which is to be consistent with, I think, the new changes in the Massachusetts law. So that's what the change was and why we've put in the new body-worn camera policy.
Can you send the body camera policy, because that didn't really explain what changed. You told me the times that it changed, but I want to specifically know what changed in the body camera, like what was updated. Was it more time? Was it to keep the body worn cameras on at every instance? What changed with the body camera policy?
Just know there was.
I don't, but you can send it if you don't have it. You could send it to council, but I would ask this to go to committee to get some information.
We'll certainly send you that policy. That's not a problem.
Okay, and then with the, what are they called, Bill? What we talked about in the finance subcommittee?
Which one, Counselor? Was it the at the discretion issue that you raised?
Yeah,
So-
at the discretion issue.
Right,
What
so
was that at the discretion issue for? Just remind me of that.
we use that language throughout not only this contract, but in other contract negotiations, so that the employer can make the decision whether or not to impose a rule or not. It's pretty common for what I've been doing with my negotiations. And there are going to be certain times when we're not going to be able to impose the rule. For instance, you'll see there's language in here about an interview with a force investigation team. And it's at the employer's discretion whether or not to conduct an interview. Well, if the fit is in the street with an officer involved, they may not be able to do a recorded interview at that time if it's very significant to have that information immediately. They're not going to have time to get that recorded at that point, so they're just going to take the information at that time. But most of the stuff where we say at the employer's discretion, we're going to use our discretion and do it.
You're going to use your discretion and do it because you said in the finance subcommittee meeting that it was part of the DOJ requirement.
These are all tied to the DOJ requirement. Yes, these were DOJ proposals.
So you said you're going to record it. This is what you said in the finance subcommittee meeting. You said we're going to record it. That's just wording, but I don't know what at the discretion you wouldn't record it. Like, I don't know what time you record it.
Right. I think I was talking about another piece of this. If you'll see it, a number of the proposals have all of that language for the at the discretion. The example I just gave you of the fit was not the same one that I used earlier. That was
I want the one from the finance subcommittee meeting, if you don't mind.
Yep, that's I believe that one was the disciplinary hearings will be audio or video audio recorded at the city's discretion, and said recording will be made available to the compliance evaluator. And the significance of that is we're not always going to have a compliance evaluator, and contract language tends to live on in the contract well beyond sometimes its lifespan. So we'll have language in here that's been in here for 30 years, but it may not be applicable anymore. And 30 years from now, there's not going to be a compliance evaluator.
Yeah, but that still doesn't talk about at the discretion of the city to record the hearings or not.
Yeah, but there's two safeguards to this already. One is you have administration in the police department, but two, you have the compliance evaluator. That's the other safeguard. So the compliance evaluator, their job is to make sure that we are complying with our agreements, the settlement agreement with the DOJ. And that what this does is this gives us the tool in order to do it.
Okay. Well, I said I didn't like at the city's discretion in the finance subcommittee because I think some of these discretionary moves that they've been doing hasn't been right. No, period. Hasn't been right. And I said that I didn't like that terminology because I don't understand when you would be using your discretion to not tape a hearing. Like those should be taped all the time so we have the correct information and we can see what's going on ourselves. So I just didn't understand that word and I still don't. So I'm going to leave that and pass it to Counselor Davila.
Thank you, Counselor Whitfield. We'll go to Counselor.
Mr. President sees.
No problem. Counselor Whitfield, I was just going to recommend you're breaking up a little bit, and it may help if you turn your video off. The connection may come through a little more clearly, but that's certainly at your discretion. We'll go to Counselor Fenton, followed by Counselor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I want to congratulate Bill, Joe, Kevin, and their respective teams on successfully negotiating this collective bargaining agreement. I think that it's fair and consistent with the added expectations that we've put on a lot of our brave men and women over the course of the past few years. They should be congratulated and applauded for the heroic work that they do each and every day in the city of Springfield to defend us and our residents. And I think that this collective bargaining agreement is commensurate with that. So I'm happy to support it tonight, including these raises. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Fenton. Counselor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening to everybody, and my apologies that I'm not in person today. Bill, I have some quick questions. Mr. Mahoney, I have some quick questions for you. I was looking over the contract and the language, and there's two things that jumped down on me. I think it's a fantastic idea about the field training officer FTO program, which I do believe that is also part of the DOJ agreement. But it is my understanding that those officers are not going to be compensated for their service as FTOs. Is that correct?
Right, there will not be any additional compensation for the FTOs. That'll, if there's overtime that's involved as a result of the program, they'll certainly be paid any overtime beyond the regular hours, but there's no separate compensation for being in the FTO program.
So they will get overtime even if they're doing FTO duties. They will get compensated for that.
Yeah, if they're doing overtime, certainly going to be compensated the overtime rate.
Okay, the contract expires when?
I'm sorry?
The contract expires when, Mahoney?
So the first one goes till 6/30 of 21. The second one goes to 6/30 of 24.
Okay, so just a quick thought on the FTO program. I'm delighted, and I'm sure we're going to have good quality guys out there who are going to sign up to be FTOs. But I personally think that in the future, and I'm sure something's going to be discussed in the future, that those guys are fairly compensated per hour or whatever agreement you have, because it is extra work for them, and I do believe that people should be compensated. So, but for now, I think it's a good step, and I do encourage in the future for the city to be open to compensating those officers for their FTO service. With that being said, Mahoney, I was looking over the contract, and something jumped out on me which I didn't quite understand. There's something that talks about failure to appear with the matrix of discipline. So there's a matrix, and then it goes A, B, C, D, E, F. Excuse me. And there's failure to appear. What exactly does that mean? Whether you or anybody from
Right. So the disciplinary matrix is actually modeled after the city of Baltimore, Maryland's disciplinary matrix policy, which is actually being updated as we speak. So they had three portions of that. One was a failure to appear, one was traffic violations, and one was just general disciplinary matters. The failure to appear was more, I believe, for failure to appear for court, that sort of thing, or for an assignment.
So it wouldn't be failure to appear for a disciplinary hearing?
For failure to appear for a court hearing or for an assignment, okay. I believe that's what they're using it for.
All right, and my last question, Mahoney, Councilor Whitfield was just talking about taping testimony. Are we talking about field interviews, or are we talking about testimony from officers being investigated?
So there's two things. There's field interviews, there's interviews with IIU, and then there's three things. Then there's going to be taping of a disciplinary hearing before the police commission.
So are we saying that you guys are going to have the discretion of taping disciplinary hearings or not?
Yeah, at our discretion, we're going to have to, again, we're obligated under the settlement agreement in order to tape these things. The at the discretion language is language we use throughout labor relations and in many of our contracts, just reserving the right to management to take that action. That's all that really means. We have the compliance evaluator and the police administration that are both going to require these things to occur. So they're going to occur.
So why put it in the language?
Yeah, the language is just language, the language is language from labor relations. It's just what we use across the board when we're trying to reserve a right to management.
Okay, all right. My last question to you, Mahoney. I've always said that I do have problems with bad cops. But, because I always say I want the best cop, the best police department that we can get. Do you feel comfortable that the average cop out there, the average regular guy who puts his badge honorably and does his job with honor, that makes an honest mistake? There's a big difference in my mind between a mistake and a pattern of abuse, of not doing your job. Do you feel comfortable with this? The guys are going to have a fair shot at being heard and being appropriately, with this matrix, with being appropriately addressed the concerns?
Absolutely, yes. The first part of the matrix has different levels of discipline, and even the very first, that letter A, is not even discipline. That's just to get someone's attention and let them know that there's a deficiency that has to be fixed. So that's already built into it, and it's only being used as a guideline. That's really what the matrix is.
Okay. All right. Because as I say, I'm a public servant that I am myself. I understand the culture. I understand the challenges. And so when I speak with authority because I do know what I'm talking about. I don't want this to be open season on cops. We need them. We love them. We will hold them accountable, those bad ones, which is a very small portion. But with that, I thank you. I thank you, the guys. I thank Joe and the union for putting this together. And thank you for answering my questions. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila, and please pardon if I cough up here. I'm recovering from having lost my voice after giving what I'm told by my colleagues last week was a very long speech. And so we'll now go to Councilor Walsh, followed by Councilor Whitfield.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. In the Finance Committee meeting, it was mentioned that this contract impacts 400 employees. It also, Mr. Mahoney, Attorney Mahoney also said there were 14 bargaining sessions and I believe 2 mediations, which suggests to me that there was a lot of give and take on both sides before consensus was reached and this contract came before us. So I think with so many people being involved and so much hard work being done, this contract should be supported and voted on tonight.
Thank you, Councilor Walsh. Councilor Govan, followed by Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to mention that I did speak to Joe Gentile, and he assured me that this contract, like Councilor Walsh said, was a lot of give and take. There was a lot of discussion about it, and that the police officers, most importantly, are happy with it. So I would encourage us to move it forward because they've been working without a contract for so long. I wish that I could give the teachers an increase. This increase that they're getting, of course, is not enough. But as I spoke to Mr. Gentile, I'm hoping that we are going to be able to recruit more officers from our city that will be able to live in our city and be police officers in our city to continue the good work that our police department is doing. So I'm also going to be in agreement with this. I do want to comment on Councilor Whitfield's point, and that it would be, I think, in the best interest of everyone, especially the police officers, to have every hearing and every meeting recorded for the benefit of everyone. Because as I'm not sure who said it, but someone said that there's always 3 sides to the truth, right? There's your side, my side, and the truth is somewhere in the middle. So when you have a recording, there's no hesitation of who said what and who didn't say something. So I would really encourage the department and the employer, which is our city, to record all proceedings that are going to be happening. So just to protect our officers and to protect our city. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Govan. Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to mention that it's time to stop doing things the same way we've always done it because it's in all of our contracts. I think that is part of what's going on in the city of Springfield. I think it's part of the problem. I think covering up information is part of the problem. And then you become like the villain when you're just telling the truth about things that are happening. And so just because discretionary has always been in the contracts doesn't mean it should be discretionary. If the DOJ report says it shouldn't be discretionary, I don't, and you're gonna do it anyway, because in the finance subcommittee meeting, you said you're gonna tape all of these disciplinary hearings. I think that if you're gonna tape them all, then it should be removed. Because at the discretion, it's still at the discretion of the administration, and things that has been going on in the administration has not been right and it has not been good. And if that hurts people's feelings and makes them say, well, I'm going to vote for this or that, that is perfectly fine. But I cannot keep silent on things that we all know are happening. So I feel uncomfortable with at the discretion. I think you guys did work hard. I think 14 sessions are amazing. I think that you really worked hard on it, but I still think that you need to hear what I'm saying and other people are saying and other perspectives. And it's not me versus you or me versus them, but things have happened in my community and we all know it, and it's hurtful and it's continuing to happen. So that's why at the discretionary of the city at this present state bothers me so much, because it hasn't been good at the discretionary things happening. So that's how I feel. I would like to send this to committee, this particular one, and just discuss it more. I too talked to Joe Gentile. He's a very nice person on the union president. Very nice person, gave great information, but I didn't hear any of the at the discretionary wording, and I did not have the information in front of me at the time to read it. So I make a motion to send it to committee. Public safety or whichever one you see fit, Mr. President.
Councilor Whitfield has made a motion to send the contract ratification to committee. Is there a second? Seeing no second, then the motion fails. Councilor Perez. Councilor Hurst?
Thank you.
Hold on, Councilor Perez. Councilor Perez, I apologize. I saw both of you at the sort of the same time. We'll go to Councilor Perez, followed by Councilor Hurst.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to say that I'm sorry I'm not here in person tonight, but because I was able to just go over, it was almost 300 pages of the information that was sent. Thank you for having that information, because I myself had a lot of questions, and in the packet, I was able to address it. I did have some questions. Thank you to Mr. Gentile. It was answered. Having 400 employees impacted, and seeing that it was 14 bargaining sessions that took place, and I feel comfortable and I am in support of voting tonight in favor. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilor Perez. Councilor Hurst.
Just a quick question for Bill. Bill, is it written anywhere specifically that the city must record these hearings?
I think it is in the DOJ settlement agreement requires my office to use due and diligent efforts to get these hearings recorded, and that's why we've put the language in here so we can record those. We also, it was a compromise in that we wanted the compliance evaluator either to be present or have the ability to be present, or alternatively, we wanted them to have these access to a video or an audio of the hearing. And that's the compromise language that we eventually worked out.
Okay, so that makes me feel a bit more comfortable. I think to Councilor Whitfield's point, the language is ambiguous. And oftentimes when language is ambiguous and you leave it to the discretion of the administration, things have not ended well. Now, for me, I am not going to hold up this particular contract because that ambiguity was the result of the administration. And we ought to have been more clear, although if you're telling me that the DOJ has it written that it will be recorded in conjunction with the fact that the compliance evaluator.
I think, Counsel, if I can interrupt you, I think, I'm doing this from memory, but I think, and again, that's a very long settlement, but I think the settlement agreement with DOJ was for the compliance evaluators to be able to attend the hearings. And the compromise we made was that we would do a recording of the hearing and make that available to the compliance evaluator. And I would say that all of this agreement that you have, we've briefed the compliance evaluator on, and we've provided copies of this to the DOJ.
I'm going to trust that that is the case because I have not seen the language, but I also will tell you that I am going to be closely monitoring what occurs during those hearings and whether they are recorded when they should be recorded, and whether we are following the letter of the law, because oftentimes that ends up not being the case. And when we have language that is ambiguous, it paves the way for folks to be disingenuous, which has occurred as well. But I also believe that it is time for us to move forward. And it's also time for us to come to some sort of resolution that allows both the citizens of Springfield, in conjunction with the police department, the DOJ, and the compliance evaluator, to start to become the best police department that we all know we can have. And so if this contract allows for that, which I believe on its face it does, then I plan to support it. And so I appreciate everything that the men and women in blue do. And, I hope this allows us to move forward with a clean slate. And, I wish you all well.
Thank you, Councilor Hurst. Is there any further deliberation? Councilor Allen.
Thanks, Mr. President. I think it's been a good discussion. I think Councilor Whitfield raised a good point, a good question. I think it's been satisfactorily answered. And I just want to congratulate everybody who's been part of this process. I'm hoping we have the votes here in a couple minutes. We seem to be moving close to that. But to all the people involved in the process of getting this contract to this point, congratulations. To all of you who serve the city of Springfield, the 400 of you in this union who serve us every day and keep us safe. I hope this is a great moment that we can have here, which is great for you, for all of you who do such great work protecting us, and for our city to feel like we're all on one page on public safety at a time when public safety and policing has been pretty difficult to keep everybody positive about, et cetera. The last couple of years have been challenging for us here, but they must have been more challenging for you on the streets. So I hope we can pass this and momentarily, and I want to thank everybody involved for your efforts in keeping the city strong and solid and safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Allen. Is there any further deliberation amongst the council? Seeing none, without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on approval of the contract.
On approving the contract, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield. Counselor Whitfield. Away. Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown. Counselor Brown. Away. Counselor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Click Bruce. Absent. Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The contract is approved. We will take a brief 2-minute recess to allow the chamber to clear.
This is like a whole meal. I know, oh boy. Oh, you're fine. You can't even hardly tell.
Council will return to regular order. I understand Councilor Whitfield may have disconnected. Councilor Whitfield, are you connected now?
I am connected, and I wanted to vote.
Councilor Whitfield, I believe we can still record your vote. Madam
Yes.
Clerk, can you please call Councilor Whitfield's vote on item 5?
Counselor Whitfield?
Yes,
Yes.
definitely.
Okay. And we'll afford Councilor Brown the same opportunity as he was also absent during that vote. Councilor Brown? Okay, so he'll be recorded as away. All right, at this time now, Madam Clerk, please call the next item on the agenda.
Mr. President, just a point of information on that
Councilor
point.
Fenton.
At what point are you not permitted to be recorded on a vote after it's been completed?
I would say likely at the adjournment of the meeting.
So at any point, if someone's absent, they can ask to be reheard.
Councilor Fenton, I'll take your question under advisement and we will deliberate on it at a future date. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
The next item is for the collective bargaining agreement ratification of the Springfield Organization of Library Employees.
Director Mahoney.
I promise this is my last one for the night. So there are 39 employees in this bargaining unit. About a third of them, 13 or so, are part-time employees. The bargaining includes senior shelvers, senior pages, a lot of senior clerks, principal clerk, maintenance supervisors, titles in those classifications. You should be aware that there are two bargaining units in the library. One is Ask Me and the other one is Soul. Ask Me are the professional librarians. That has been settled for a period of time now already. Negotiations began with this group on January 27, 2022. We had 5 bargaining sessions, followed by 3 mediation sessions, and then we settled the contract on December 14th, 2022, on the morning of a fact finding. The contract covers the periods of 7/1/22 to June 30th of 23, and July 1/23 to June 30th of 26. The increases in salary are 75 cents an hour in year 1, 75 cents an hour in year 2, 2% in year 3, 2% in year 4. We added Juneteenth as a holiday. We cleaned up the agency fee language again as a result of the Janus Supreme Court decision. We had a little problem in the grievance language that we cleaned up. We addressed parental leave consistent with Massachusetts law, and we adopted the military leave ordinance that the City Council passed. We made most of the part-time employees eligible for holiday pay. We reduced the religious leave from 5 days to 2 days to be consistent with the other library contract, and we provided a one-time retention bonus of $500.
Thank you, Director Mahoney. Is there any deliberation amongst the council? Seeing none, without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the ratification.
On ratification, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown. Away, Counselor Hurth.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, Counselor Click Bruce, absent. Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The agreement is approved. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Next item is an order authorizing a contract term over 3 years for 2 fiber optic network projects for City and School Department.
CAFO plant.
Thank you, Mr. President. TJ Plant CAFO. I believe either Paul Foster or Ben Wilson from the school department is here to talk on this issue if there's any more specific questions. We're actually asking the City Council to approve a 5-year contract for the city and the school department to collaborate and run a fiber network throughout the city and connect all the municipal buildings and all the school buildings. This will be paid for by a vast majority by the E-rate program through the school department and the FTA. And I'll take any questions you have, or I don't know if Paul or Ben are on via Zoom right now.
I do see Mr. Foster is on. Mr. Foster, did you wish to add additional testimony?
I think TJ summed it up well. I'm sorry, Paul Foster, Springfield Public Schools. TJ summed it up well, so I'm happy to take questions, and I know a couple members of our team are here as well if there are questions, but really, we certainly have fiber networks in the schools. We have a fiber network already connecting all of our buildings to our data center, but we believe we can get both better pricing and better service by going out to RFP, and that's really what's prompting this, as well as getting fiber to all city buildings as well.
Thank you, Mr. Foster. Is there any deliberation, questions, or debate amongst the council? Councilor Fenton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Paul, I just want to congratulate you on your new venture and wish you well. You've done very well by the city for many, many years, and the city of Hartford's lucky to have you.
Thanks, Councilor. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Councilor Fenton. Are there any further questions, comments, or deliberation? Seeing none, without objection. Oh, sorry, Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you. Oh, Paul, you know how I feel about you, Paul. So I didn't even know you were leaving. Oh, that's such a loss to the city. What a stand-up, wonderful guy you were to work with. And yeah, loss to the city, but congratulations and good luck. I do have one question, Paul. How is the fiber optic in the places that it's running right now? How is that going?
I think it's going relatively well, but I think we're not real happy with the pricing that we're getting, which is really what's prompting this RFP. But I think we have good service, we have good connectivity, and it's been relatively reliable. I mean, things happen from time to time, but it has been reliable and it's been good speed, but the cost has really been an issue for us. And we'd like to get that cost down.
Totally understandable. Thank you, Paul, and thank you so much for your service.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
All righty.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Councilor Perez.
As a former school committee member, I'm telling you, good luck. I enjoy working with you in the community for the poster for the graduates. Good luck, good luck, good luck, my friend. Take care.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Is there any further deliberation? Seeing none, without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll to authorize the contract.
On authorizing the contract, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce. Absent, Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The order is approved. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Next item is an appropriation order for taking damages for St. James Avenue and Carew Street intersection.
Director Signoli.
Good evening, councilors. We have two items on the agenda. Excuse me, the first for appropriation of the funds and second for voting for the actual takings. The project consists of reconstruction of roadways for St. James Avenue, St. James Boulevard, and Carew Street. It is about 4,000 feet of roadway reconstruction. It is a Mass DOT project of about $9 million. The project will be starting in April of going out to bid, in April of this year, with construction starting later this year. We have 13 partial land takings, 46 temporary construction easements, and 8 permanent easements. The 8 permanent easements are for signs that will be placed when the project is complete, directional signage. The partial takings, more than half of them are associated with the Big Y parcel. For those of you who go through the area there, the Big Y owns most of the land that's on that side of the road. And then 46 temporary easements along the entire project length, St. James Avenue, St. James Boulevard, and Carew Street, new sidewalks, new driveway ramps. Mass DOT takes a 5-foot easement behind each one of the properties. So we have easements on virtually every property that's being impacted. The total compensation amount is $271,900, and inside of your packet lists all of the different properties, either for the partial takings, temporary easements, or the permanent easements, the recommended compensation for each of those parcels.
Thank you, Director Signoli. Councilor Fenton.
Thank you, Mr. President. During the Finance Committee, thanked Chris and his team. I'd like to do that again, as well as Mass Department of Transportation for their investment of time and resources in this project. It's one that we as a neighborhood and a city have been after for over a decade, and that intersection and the thoroughfares, both St. James, and Carew, were in need of this upgrade. So I think it's a tremendous investment in partnership between the city and the state to the tune of north of $9 million. Chris, we did hear during public Speakout some concerns that were expressed from Reverend Watson and the Canaan Baptist Church on the corner of Hobart and St. James. I tried to speak as much as I could with Reverend Watson before the meeting started, and I think that he needed some additional information about what was actually taking place. And I'm hopeful that you could maybe update us on the conversation you had with him. I see he's no longer here. Was that a fruitful conversation?
It was very fruitful. Number one, their concern that he brought up, we do easements for either 3 years or 5 years. And the issue is not that the construction lasts 5 years, but if we get the easements tonight, and for whatever reason, construction doesn't start till next year, there's always a possibility that the easements, the 3-year easements expire, so we do 5 years. On the property that they were referencing, the work that is being done is they're getting a new driveway ramp and they're getting new sidewalk. So what we do as part of the project is we take a 5-foot easement behind the sidewalk to be able to construct it. And, you know, his concern also was about the 5 years, so I explained that. But then the other idea of just being in constant communication with them for any services that they have during the week. No contractors can't park on their property. No people just can't use their property because it's there. So I gave them an overview of what the project is and what's going to be impacted on their property. One of the things that they were happy about also is one of the big problems that occurs there right now is the pickup from the school. People park all over people's front lawns. Well, one of the things that's being done there is going to be installation of granite curbing. So people aren't going to be able to park on people's front lawns. And on the school side, we did a nice bump in to be able to get more people off the road during that pickup in the afternoon with the buses and the rest of the pickup. So I will use the word content at this point, and gave them our contact information. And one of the things that's important for what we need to know on a daily basis is if they have any events that are going on, whether you happen to be talking about a funeral or anything like that on a particular day, that, hey, Thursday we need to stay away, that they communicate that with us. We also have a person who will be out on the construction, not 100% full-time, but he has their contact information, and we have met with him before. So I think at this point, I will use the word content.
Thank you, Director. And Mr. President, in speaking with Reverend Watson and explaining to him that the city's policy is to, and Mass DOT's policy is to replace and restore the property into like-kind condition as it was after the improvements are made. And in addition, the payment that you see in your schedule is compensation above and beyond that restoration. And I know that in my brief conversation with the Reverend, I don't want to put any words in anybody's mouth, but he was pleased to hear that information. And I think by his lack of attendance here at this time, that is indicative of a likelihood that he would support us moving forward, again, without putting words in anybody else's mouth. So if that opposition from the church remained, I would have made a motion to committee tonight. But in light of these developments and in light of the importance of the project to the neighborhood, I'm prepared to move forward and would ask for my colleagues' support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fenton. We'll go to Councillor Davila, followed by Councillor Hurst.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, Chris. This sounds like this is something similar that we have here with the friendlies in reverse with the issue with the parking. But Chris, as Councillor Fenton just discussed, Reverend Watson, Pastor Watson brought up the issue of the, if I heard correctly, about the compensation amount that they're going to be getting. If I'm not mistaken, another 2 people. I believe that they quoted $1,675. Can you walk me through how that decision was made and how much actual easement are we doing?
It is 5 feet basically behind the back of the sidewalk. And what we're doing there is we're reconstructing their sidewalk. It's going to be in the exact location that it is now, so it's going to be put in the exact same location. The other discussion that I had with him as well, I forgot to mention before, Councillor Fenton, was the issue related to compensation. It's kind of like looking for a tax abatement. You have to accept the compensation that is presented to you, and then you can go back through the city. So I walked him through what he would need to do with the law department to do that. And what I'm asking is that Attorney Shuchuk share with him the compensation calculations, because I know they're not in the package here. I provided him with a copy of the packet that was submitted to the council because it shows the compensation amount for all of the other properties on the project. For example, immediately next to him is the bank, and their compensation is $2,700. However, the bank fronts both on Carew Street and on St. James, so it's kind of like they kind of have the double side of it, so their number impact is basically the same, but it's on 2 different sides of the property. And the construction period for when a sidewalk is being done there, it's probably a week and a half, 2 weeks of impact, where the job may take a construction season and a half, but it's, you know, a day or two to rip out the sidewalks, a day or two to form the sidewalks, a day or two to pour the sidewalks. So the idea of it being ripped up and sitting there for 6 months, that's not going to happen. So the actual compensation amount, Councilor Davia, that you were asking about, I don't have how the calculation was done with me, but I've asked Robert Shuchuk to share that with the pastor so that he has all of that information.
Right, and that's a quick question. When are we putting the shovel to the ground?
The project's going out to bid April of this year. I'm guessing it's probably going to be August, September of this year.
I can see the need to this project, of course. It's a safety issue project. However, if I'm not mistaken, the pastor was adamant about the compensation amount. I don't know, again, I don't want to put words in people's mouth, but I just wonder if this amount is sufficient to them. So, but I would love to hear what, or maybe we could have a talk with the pastor and the members before we pass this, but I would love to hear what my colleagues have to say on this matter. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Councilor Hurst, followed by Councilor Walsh.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to send this to committee. I don't know, Chris, if it's absolutely dire that we vote on this tonight, but if it's not, I'd like to hear from Reverend Watson. He's, you know, certainly a staple in the community. I would imagine that he probably had to digest a lot, and, you know, over the course of 5 or 10 minutes. And while he might have been pleased, I also would imagine that he's probably has to go and relay that information back to his parishioners, and then, you know, it would seem to me that they would have some time to arrive at a conclusion or really digest some of the information that you all have presented to him. So without him being here and hearing from him firsthand, I can't approve it tonight, and my motion would be to send it to committee. My motion is to send it to committee.
The only item I would like to add to that, if it is not
Director
voted
Signoli,
on,
I apologize. You're out of order. So let me finish taking the motion, and then if somebody has a question, we can do that. So Councilor Hurst has made a motion to send this to committee. Is there a second?
Second.
All right.
I'd like to make a motion to
has been
send items 8 and 9 to committee. I'd imagine that they're interconnected, right?
So noted. And is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been seconded by Councilor Whitfield. So now, is there any discussion on the motion on items 8 and 9?
Chris,
I have my hand up.
Councilor Walsh on the motion.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, and I'm happy that this is going to committee. So who do we believe, the pastor or the director of the DPW? So I'm going with the pastor, and I would feel much more comfortable if he told us himself that he is comfortable, because when you look at 271 million, and you're giving them 1,000, I mean, how does that work? To me, I would be upset too. So I'm going to support this motion.
Is there any further discussion on the motion? Councilor Fenton?
No,
I thought you were waving at me. Okay. Councilor Davila on the motion?
Thank you, Mr. President. I guess more of a comment, Mr. President. I will support the committee, but I also think that we need to bring this back to the agenda ASAP so that Chris has ample time to do the RFP and to get this project going, because he's correct. That's a very challenging area. And I would say time is of the essence too. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Is there any further discussion on the motion to committee?
Mr. President, if I may?
Director Signoli.
If it is not voted on tonight, whatever delay happens until it is voted, that's the delay that will happen in the bid date. Just want to make everybody aware of that.
Thank you, Director Signoli. At this time, is there any further deliberation? Councilor Fenton
Chris,
on the
could you
motion.
just repeat that, please? And
If it is not voted and approved on tonight, the delay from now to whenever it is approved will delay the bid date.
what is your expected bid date?
April.
So for example, if your expected bid date is April 1st, then a 2-week delay would put you at like April 15th.
Would probably put you a minimum to May 1st. It's not being bid by the city, it's being bid by Mass DOT.
Mr. President, when's our point of information? When's our next regular meeting?
Our next regular meeting is not until February the 13th. Our next hearings meeting is on January 23rd.
Can we hear this at the hearings meeting?
I would be agreeable to hearing it at the hearings meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fenton. Is there any further deliberation on the motion to send items 8 and 9 to committee? Seeing no further deliberation. Councillor Walsh, I see your hand up, but I believe that might be from previous.
Yes, I can't find the lower.
Okay, we'll take care of that. And so seeing no further deliberation, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the motion to send items 8 and 9 to committee.
On the motion to
If I may,
send,
Counselor, which committee?
They will go to the Finance Committee.
on the motion to send items 8 and 9 to the Finance Committee, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce, absent. Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The items will go to the Finance Committee. Madam Clerk, please call item 10.
Item 10 is in order to use $3.7 million to eliminate the trash fee.
Councillor Hurst.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've actually sent to councilors an amendment to the order. I know there was a little confusion as to whether it was an order or a resolve, and so the hope is that I have clarified it sufficiently. I've highlighted the areas where I've made changes. There are 3 areas, there are 3 words that I changed in this particular, what was an order to a resolution, and that is at the very beginning. I put resolution to use $3.7 million to eliminate the trash fee. And then if you go down to the very last paragraph where it says, now therefore be it resolved, I changed the language from order to be resolved. And where it says later on in that sentence, formally requests, I changed order to request. And so if you'll indulge me, Mr. President, I will read this resolution into the record. I believe the clerk already has a copy of the resolution. Whereas the city of Springfield received $41 million in settlement money from Eversource and recently certified $67.8 million in free cash, which is the highest in decades. And whereas inflation is at an all-time high, utility bills are skyrocketing as we enter the winter season, and residents are having to choose between keeping their lights on, heating their homes, paying their bills, and putting food on the table. And whereas most residents have already seen an increase in their property tax bills in January and will be faced with the burden of having to pay excise taxes in February and a trash fee bill in March. Whereas the increase in property taxes, coupled with the property tax bill, excise tax bill, and trash fee bill being issued 3 consecutive months in a row to start the new year, will cause a ripple effect, Mr. President, that could prove catastrophic for those struggling to make ends meet, with the trash fee potentially being the straw that breaks our residents' backs. And whereas reducing the amount that property taxes increase is simply not enough and also not what residents need, especially considering property taxes have gone up every year over the course of the last 8 years. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council hereby formally requests Mayor Sarno to provide the residents of Springfield financial relief now and use $3.7 million to eliminate the trash fee for all residents this year. Mr. President, when this was originally filed, I believe on Tuesday, a few days later, when folks realized that this was on the agenda as an order, we had the DPW director, as well as the finance director of the city of Springfield, provide us with a litany of reasons as to why an order could not move forward. Director Signoli gave a dissertation on why we couldn't do this. TJ Plant gave a legal opinion as to why this could not occur. Never did they ever take the time to tell the city council how it could occur and what needed to happen for it to occur, and the steps that the residents of Springfield desperately need for both the council and the mayor to do so that they can receive financial relief. And the more I thought about the individuals that were making decisions and recommendations and putting up barriers that prevented our residents from receiving financial relief, the more I decided to look into exactly how much they were making and what the impacts of reducing the trash fee, or the impact of receiving a property tax bill that you did not anticipate it to go up would have on them. And when I looked at their salaries and I saw that DPW director makes $160,000, and I saw that the financial director makes over $200,000, I realized that it was probably extremely difficult for those individuals to be able to relate to what our everyday residents are going through. In addition, when I looked at their salaries, they are the 3rd and 23rd, Mr. President, highest paid municipal workers in the city of Springfield. And so one asks themselves, why or how would they be able to relate to the resident who is struggling to keep their lights on, to the resident who is being hurt by inflation, to the resident who just received a property tax bill that both you and I and probably every counselor in this chamber received phone calls about? Unless your phone was turned off, you heard from residents who were extremely disappointed and shocked by their property taxes going up. Half of the households, Mr. President, in the city of Springfield earn less than $41,000 a year. And so when you compare that to these department heads, they are making 4 to 5 times individually than 50% of the residents who are impacted by these taxes and the trash fee are making. That's households. These individuals are making 4 and 5 times individually. So while they may not receive the calls that I've received from individuals who are struggling, I would argue that a vote tonight, at the very least, shows that the counselors in this chamber care. And if you can't relate because you too are making a lot of money, then let's at least try to envision ourselves in their shoes. Let's send a message to the mayor that we want something done. Let's send a message that we are for those residents who are struggling this evening and that we want to see financial relief now. So I urge the members of this body to support this resolution and just have a little compassion. It's a little, Mr. President, for those individuals who continue to figure out how to pay their bills. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Hurst. Councilor Hurst, you've submitted this amendment in writing, and then you read the order that you had filed with the substituted language. Are you making that in the form of a motion?
I am making that in form of a motion.
All right, so Councilor Hurst has made a motion to amend the order to include this language that indicates it more as a resolve. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Councilor Gavon. Is there any discussion on the motion to amend? Seeing none? Without objection, Madam Clerk, this is on the motion to amend the language before us to reflect the written amendment that was submitted.
On the motion to amend, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton.
No.
No, Counselor Perez.
No.
No, Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
No.
No, Counselor Brown. Counselor Brown. Away, Counselor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce, absent. Counselor Edwards.
No.
No, Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Letterman.
Yes. Madam Clerk, what are the yeas and nays?
7 yeas, 4 noes.
All right, so the motion passes and the debate is on the language before us. Is there any debate on the language before us? Councilor Fenton.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to choose my words really carefully. I'm a little caught off guard and embarrassed by some of the remarks that were just made about city employees and their salaries. I don't see how it's germane in any respect to what we're talking about here tonight. And I'm confused and perplexed about what we're even really talking about. The original proposal that we received was to purportedly revoke the trash fee through an order. And we received a memo from the CAFO outlining the reasons why we don't have authority to do that. And if we're being honest with ourselves, we all know we don't have authority to do that. We can't appropriate money. We talk about it a lot, but we have no authority to appropriate the $3+ million that were a part of the original order to extinguish the trash fee. Furthermore, while I understand this issue is a political football, the city is not in a financial position to be eliminating the trash fee. The councilors, the ward councilors who remain from the original change of representation from an all-at-large system to a hybrid system will remember very vividly the time in which the Financial Control Board imposed by then Governor Romney took over the financial responsibilities for the city of Springfield. We have come a long way since then because of the decisions of the people in this chamber, as well as the decisions of the people in the administration. But we continue to have substantial financial hardship, particularly when it relates to our escalating expenses and our unfunded pension liability. We remain one of the most underfunded pension systems in the state. And it would not just be imprudent to eliminate the trash fee at this time. It is completely impractical. And as one member of 13 of this institution, I'd like to, on behalf of myself and the sliver of the institution that I represent, 1/13th, apologize for the remarks that were made earlier that were personal in nature and have no bearing whatsoever on whether the city of Springfield has a trash fee or not, and have no place here in our discussions. So I intend to vote against it. I think a vote for it isn't being completely honest with the public, not only about what we have the legal authority to do, but about what our financial responsibilities and fiduciary duties to the city dictate that we must do to keep the city in a solvent financial position for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Fenton. Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. President. While there are valid points on both sides, for me, the message was people are struggling. And while this could have been some effort, political football, the message is still clear. Maybe if you are the one that is receiving all the phone calls, even from your own family that's on fixed incomes, then you could understand why it's important to do the right thing when we have $67 million of certified free cash, that when there was an opportunity to give relief in tax bills, by even if we just change the tax factor to balance it a little more, there was an opportunity. But now, since the bills are out, everybody don't pay attention politically. Everybody don't get the information said to them correctly. Everybody's not educated on the political process, so they don't know to come to the city council meetings and listen to the tax factor and all that. That's confusing. Then all the other stuff wouldn't even matter if the concern is really on the constituents. It is sad what we're doing. What we're doing is really sad. We shouldn't be divided and say things like political ploy, because to be quite honest, every city employee's salary is on the website. So anybody can go and see it. Everybody have went and seen it. People go and see it. So they already know what TJ Plant means, and Chris Ignoli and Helen Calter-Heron and Mayor Sarno and us. People know, they know how much we make. We just, voted in a raise. But when folks are really, really, really struggling, I read a Facebook post today. It said, I had money until I went to the store and bought some eggs. And that was real for me, because I was in the grocery store yesterday and it was not easy. And I'm not the one making 41,000. I'm not. I make more than that. But it's just time to send a message on everything, because we have to put the residents of the city of Springfield first. They should be first, and that runs across the gamut. There's no color thing here. And there's no color, there's no race. There's economic things that's happening that affects everyone. And Councilor Hurst wasn't the first one who ran on a trash fee, getting rid of it. This isn't the first time we heard that. This isn't the first time. People still bring it up to this day that's what the mayor said that he was going to do. Working in finance and actually having DPW for a budget, I understand that couldn't be done in that way. But I would like just some type of effort to say, what can we do, instead of like not doing anything or not doing more. So I'm going to support the resolution just because it makes sense to me to give the residents of the city of Springfield a break somewhere. Somewhere. The ones that really need it are the ones that are struggling to get it the most. And that's from ARPA to tax break and probably other things that just haven't been uncovered yet, but will. So, thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Councilor Govan, followed by Councilor Perez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I remember when I first came on the council last year, I think this was one of the first things that I spoke up about was the residents needing relief. And when I saw at that time, whatever amount of free cash it was, I brought it up that we should give the residents some relief somehow, if it's in property taxes, something. And the tax bill, I think, is what, $95 a year. That would be nice, right? It would be something, because the property taxes bills went out, and as Councilor Hurst said, as Councilor Whitfield said, I've been getting calls. I'm on the Nextdoor app. I'm going to read to you some of the comments that my constituents have made. She says, Cindy is her name. She's in East Springfield, actually, possibly in your ward, Councilor Fenton. Did anyone else open their tax bill? I am floored, in all caps, at the amount of the increase and what they are claiming my house could sell for. This is ridiculous. We bought our house in 2018, and our most recent bill is $5,200 for the year. The last, in 2018, it was $3,182. Leslie says, in 16 acres, my property taxes went up $400 per quarter. For that much of an increase, I would expect that my street not be as torn up as it is. Unbelievable. Lori said mine went up $300. One person said, I applied for an exemption for over 65 and still didn't get it. That alone would help. Guess I would have to go downtown to find out what's happening. I'm 70, and this is not helping when it went from $500 to $700 a quarter. Mine went up from $619 to $900. I just opened my tax bill and I am completely irate. Larry says, I can buy a house, $300,000 house in North Carolina and only pay $2,000. The stories go on and on and on. Today I was speaking to one of my clients who said that they got their tax bill and they're going to have to move. They're going to have to sell their house and leave Springfield, leave Massachusetts, because they can't afford to live here. And these are just some of the ones that I know about. You know, when I talked last year about the property tax relief, you know, someone said to me, well, not everybody needs it. And that's true. Not everybody might need the tax relief, but a majority of our residents in the city of Springfield do. If you ask 100 of our residents, 90 of them will say that they could use the tax relief. Eggs went up. We're going to have chickens in our backyards now. We might need cows for milk. But all of this everything is going up. Gas has gone up. The light bill is going up. Gas bill. Xfinity is going up. Everything is going up except the income. And I always say it. We're all on a fixed income if you work for somebody, because your salary is not going to increase because the cost of living did. And if it does, we're going to do like we just awarded the police officers union $3.75 a year of an increase. That's not even the cost of living. Inflation goes up way more than that. So I'm in favor of this, and I feel like it's going to be a slap in the face to our residents, because $95 a year, we have, I don't know how much we have left in that certified free cash. 10% of that, could go to the retirement fund. Another 10% could go somewhere else. 10 or 20% could go to the residents. That's my only concern, right? And my only request is that we think about the residents who are living in our city, who are paying these taxes. They're the ones that afford us to have this free cash. We have the cannabis tax revenue now. What are we doing with that? And why aren't we helping our residents? MGM casino money, we were supposed to be getting money from that. Where's that money at? And that's what the residents are asking me. That's what they're saying in the next door postings. A lot of them have said that. What happened to the MGM money? You know, and this is a reality. This is what I hear all the time. And that's the reason I brought it up last year. That's the reason I'm supporting it this year. And we're going to continue talking about it until our residents get some relief, because they need it, or we're going to lose them. We're going to lose the people who are living in our homes. We're no longer going to be known as the city of homes, because nobody's going to be able to afford to live here. Those are my comments. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Gavon. Excuse me. We'll go to Councilor Perez, followed by Councilor Hurst. Councilor
Thank you,
Perez,
Mr.
followed by Councilor Davila then.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, I recall a couple of days saying having to weigh in with the community and weighing in politics. And I think this is a statement that I said, and it's being in the happening tonight. One of the issues that I have right now is that reading the recommendation of the department, the enterprise funds definition would have to be null. And then I'm thinking about the retirement, the workman's compensation. All that is gonna be null if we go through that venue. I think that, and correct me if I'm wrong, we just went through a lot of budget hearings. Why was not that implemented as part of the budget hearings? That's one question I have, so we could have more answers to the matter. I am one that I know what the community is going on, but what the derail that might make, that's why we need to realistic start making those discussions. And I hear money's here, money's over there, but if in fact, in transparency, we want to do this for the community, let's do it when we were doing the budget hearing and all that. I don't want to risk the health insurance. I don't want to put at risk the workers' month retirement. I mean, in all honesty, I hear the community, but we as a body, as a city council, we have to find a way to realistic and transparency, have a venue of discussing all this matter. At this point, I was puzzled, I was confused when this came up after we have finished going through a budget hearing. So you know what, it is in discussion, has been in discussion, and I acknowledge that. But let's work as a team and bring the facts when the facts are there to be dealt with. Not just because we want to put something in the arena and we want to debate, and not for the benefit of the community, but let's look at long-term benefit for the community, and let's not utilize something like this that divide us as a council and as a community. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilor
Thank you,
Perez.
Mr. President.
We'll go to Councilor Edwards, followed by Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't think it's anybody's business how much money I earn, but I can tell you, I believe that I'm the only city councilor in the room that does not have another job other than being a city councilor. And we all in the room know how much we earn to do this job. I won't make any comment as to how much time other people invest in their job, but I believe over the years I've built a reputation as to answering people's calls, returning people's calls, and sharing as much information as I can. I'm not into delivering messages. I support, in theory, the ideal that the trash fee should go away, and I would support properly presented legislation that would do that. But I also, as one of the three counselors that are in the room, at the time of the control board, when we came in with a reduced salary and reduced role as elected officials, I remember that the conversation was in relation to past council votes and things that we did. If and when our colleagues or we collectively working with the administration, whether it's and put forth a plan that eliminates the trash fee, I'll be happy to support it. I need tax relief. I'm not going to sit here and say that my taxes didn't go up. My wife does an excellent job of managing our household income. But the point is that I don't think that I should make all my decisions based on just how much I earn personally, nor should I make decisions based on what my colleagues earn or any other department head. I am responsible to all the taxpayers, not just the ones in my ward who elect me, but across the city. And they do need relief. I will not try to argue that they don't need relief. I believe that I can support a resolve because a resolve does not actually do anything except send a message. But sending the message without the effect of having something get done is kind of useless from my perspective. We don't have the authority to do it, to create an expenditure. We've all either read or have glanced at the charter of the city of Springfield and know what the role of the mayor is, and as opposed to what our role is. But I'm hearing and echo all of the sentiments of my colleagues in terms of what they're getting the calls. I'm getting the calls as well. I agree with them. My wife agrees with you. We're all struggling. But when we talk about the costs, just recognize that police cars, fire engines, the trucks that clean the streets, the costs to the city are increasing as well. They're paying for gas as well. These lights, Eversource doesn't give us electricity for free. That's all being paid for out of the money that we collect. And if we've done a poor job of explaining where the money from MGM goes to, then we need to do a better job. We need to be better at trying to explain to people our pension obligations. The fact that we just increased the salaries of our police officers deservingly tonight and to other unions as well. We have failed to be able to communicate with our constituents exactly where their money is being spent. But in no way am I suggesting that people are happy not to have roads smoother and better paved, sidewalks, or trash picked up on a more regular basis across the city. I'm just saying that the tax relief or any other thing done is not necessarily by sending a message. And we've been in this chamber quite often when people have sent messages that have felt on deaf ears. So I can support the resolve because it is just simply the sending of a message that I agree with. The trash fee should go away. We should get tax relief. Our residents deserve to get tax relief, but we should also make decisions regarding the fiscal stability of the city, because we all remember what it was like when the city elected officials did not control the business of the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Edwards. We'll go to Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, let me just remind people that, to the best of my knowledge, the average price index, cost of living here in Massachusetts has gone up by 7%. We just approved the contract for the police officers, and that calls for an adjustment of 3.75%, not even close to the price index, to the price adjustment of 7% on average here in the Commonwealth. It is also well known, we just said the property tax, and it's being alluded to. And in that discussion, it was brought up that the average home value has increased by 30%. And yes, me too have been getting the phone calls and I've been getting the emails, and people are angry. And this is a very delicate act because we do have to maintain city services going. We do need to pay the police officers. We do need to pay the firefighters. They need maintenance for the vehicles. We need to pay people at City Hall. It's a very delicate dance here. But when it comes to the trash fee, at least in my mind, we can actually have the cake and eat it too. I too remember 16 years ago when this issue was, as it was said, a political football. It was okay to be brought up back then, but somehow today it's become kind of taboo. Don't talk about this. No, we're going to continue to talk about this because it's affecting people's pockets. I'd like to remind my esteemed colleagues that during the property tax, we discovered that we have $134 million available between ARPA, free cash, overlay account, and stabilization fund. Now, some people like to say, and I can totally see it, the counter argument, this is one-time funding. Well, it doesn't have to be one-time funding. If that was the argument, then why is our beloved mayor consistently giving tax relief towards property tax? I argue to the teeth that we should be $20 million because that's what I believe, and I still believe that. But no, the mayor decided, and this wise body agreed with the mayor, that should be $10 million. The mayor gave relief for water sewer. So we need to be careful how we, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, the message here that we send. Why are we saying that this is going to be imprudent or fiscally responsible if we give this tax relief for the trash fee, but it's okay and it's fiscally wise to do it for the water and the property tax? I actually think we could do all three together and still be in good financial footing, in my opinion. That's from where I stand here and I see it. I think, like I say, we can have a cake and eat it too. With that being said, again, I'm not saying that we're going to give the store away. That would be truly irresponsible. But it's been 16 years that people were promised that the trash fee was going to be abolished, and that has not happened. That has not happened. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to just do some clarification because it was said that we should talk about matters when they're happening. So I know during budget season, I always say, let's look at the revenue side. You know, do we have to increase the property tax this much? Because come October, November, December, we're going to have to vote. We're going to have to vote to collect that property tax revenue. We're going to have to set a tax factor if it goes up that much and nothing happens. And then we have ARPA funds available and we say, go on this nice bus ride, hear from the constituents, and let's use some of the ARPA fund to get rid of the transportation fee. And right in the moment, we say, let's do this. Let's take this ride with many residents, single moms, folks with very, very low income, taking up every day to get their kids to school that really could use this relief. And when there was opportunity to do it, it wouldn't even be considered by the administration, not even considered. And then, just not too long ago, when I was chair of the finance committee, I tried to just give it a really even tax factor. Like, okay, we're not gonna give more free cash, a president a year that a president a year that we never seen before, not even close to going back to control board time, because I was there right after control board came in 2010. I was there, took furloughs, all that, lived it, not even close, but I think Mayor Stein was the city council went right before it went to the financial control board. So we are doing much better with financial oversight. So let's give more relief to the taxpayers right in the moment, right when it's happening. And it wasn't considered to give more relief. Well, let's just even it with the tax factor, and it was voted down. So right in the moment when we can give relief, that's the time to come together And that's the time that we should come together, when we could really do it together and make a real difference for our constituents. Because I just seen on Facebook where my mom put their tax bill went up by $400. They're both on a fixed income, my stepmom, my mom, my stepdad. And a quarter of $4 is a lot. Folks may not understand, but you know what got the attention of everybody? The salary that the employees of the city is making. That's what got attention. It's really sad because it's public. Anybody can go get that information at any time, and we all know this.
Councillor Whitfield, have we lost you? Councillor Whitfield, I can see you are connected and unmuted, but we can no longer hear you in the chamber.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
All right. And I know that everyone's tired, probably tired of hearing it, but we did do it in the moment. We tried. Some of us tried. I'm gonna say some of us tried in the moment. I tried. I'm gonna speak for me. I tried. And because of whatever reason, we couldn't come together to do it. And so when it's time to speak up and keep speaking up and keep talking about it and keep sending the message, you don't wait to do it later when everybody's on board. You do it now and try to get folks to understand what people are really living here. This isn't a political football, it's life, and it's happening right now in the moment, because I'm not only getting calls on the tax bill, no, because now I'm on the ARPA committee, which I'm happy to be there, and I thank you, Mr. President, for being there, because I'm going to.
Councillor Whitfield, I'm sorry. Councillor Whitfield, we've lost you again. Councillor Whitfield, we can hear you, but you are sort of cutting out. You're intermittently in and out. Councillor Whitfield, I'm going to give you a moment to reconnect, and we're going to go to the next councillor in line unless you can hear me now. All right, so we'll come back to Councillor Whitfield, who has now disconnected. Councillor Allen.
I'm just gonna pass on to Councillor Allen, because obviously my computer wanted me to be quiet now. So I just wanted to make those points to please do something for our residents and send a message. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield, and we did hear that last portion. Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have heard a continued refrain for the last couple months about the impact on our residents for a variety of reasons, which have been mentioned here in the chamber several times. And there's no doubt there is impact on some of our residents with inflation, et cetera, increased tax bills. The trash fee isn't the same as it's always been. It hasn't gone up in, I don't know, numerous years. And so that's, talking about the trash fee, while it would help people, I understand that it is not it's not an increase. It's not a new expense. It's the same as it's been for numerous years. However, the refrain is so there's two things that are on my mind. One is Councillor Whitfield, Councillor Hurst, Councillor Govan, and others have continually brought this up. Councillor Govan said she brought it up a year ago when she joined this chamber. So, out of respect to that, I think there needs to be some consideration of thinking what we could do. I don't know that I'm going to vote for this resolution tonight, because I'm not sure it's the right thing to do. At the same time that we are hearing this from our residents, I think if I heard Councilor Perez right, she made good points about our responsibility sitting in this body as the oversight body for the city of Springfield, fiscal oversight. It's an annoying term. It's annoying that people somewhere in the past didn't pay the pensions, but we're stuck with it. And throwing $4,000, looking $4,000 in the face and saying, we're not going to take you this year or whatever, is not responsible when we look at that part of the job. That part of the job did result in the control board. We only came in, those of us who were elected in '09, Councilor Fenton, Councilor Edwards, and myself are the three left of that crew. And Councilor Walsh was here before that, and maybe missing somebody. We weren't part of the council when the control board was here. They were here from '04 to '09. We were elected in '09 and we took office in '10. So we didn't really work with them. But the reason they came is because of failed and improper fiscal practices and things that had happened over time. And those things can happen again. Particularly at this time when things are going up, that's when they could happen again. Because the city, just like everybody else in the households, the city has responsibilities as well, and they go up. So while the gas bill goes up, although gas has gone down right now for our cars, but while that's gone up, and so hasn't it for the fleet of the 400 or 500 vehicles the city of Springfield owns. So I'm left here thinking about these different things and respecting my colleagues who keep bringing this up, but it comes up. I'm not sure I like the way it comes up. It's kind of convenient. Well, we're talking about taxes, so let's do it in taxes. Now we're talking about trash fee, so let's eliminate the trash fee. I will probably vote to keep us paying that pension thing because we are not close to the bottom, as Councilor Fenton said. We are still last. We are still last by about 10%, somewhere in that range. So we were 26% funded when we started this mission. We're now around 36% funded. The Boston Public School teachers was second to last when we started this. They were 42% funded then. We aren't even back to where they were then. It's unfortunate. It stinks. Nobody likes talking about paying the pension bill, but if we don't pay it, we're not being fiscally responsible. So could we pay it and keep it going? Yes. Does DOR want to see us pay it responsibly because it's our main fiscal duty? Yes, but from a social justice standpoint, there are obviously other things that are our considerations. One is why this keeps coming up about giving people a break. So I don't want us ever to forget that, because that will bring on, if we fail in that area, as annoying as it is to keep paying that, those bills go up every year. July 1st is now 5.5 months away, and we'll be paying somewhere on the order of $70 million, and then 75, or I may not be exactly right on the number, but it's 65 or 70. And then the following July 1st will be 75 or 80, something like that. So what I would propose is, rather than constantly bringing this up and constantly causing tension on the council about putting us all in positions of, what side are we going to be on or whatever, and this vote that, as Councilor Edwards said, maybe it's symbolic, but it doesn't have any legs in terms of it mattering on fiscal policy. Then I propose to you, President Letterman, that I, as the chair of the Finance Committee, I think maybe we should have a conversation off to the side about taking on this issue straightforward, in a way where we create an initiative of the council to look at ways where we can do this, where it's not just the next thing that comes up, but we look at the MGM money, we look at all the different things that we seem to never quite be totally positive on. And then we have an initiative to look at ways we can reduce expenses. The budget process is going to start, et cetera. And I'm willing to try to do that within the confines of the Finance Committee, ask for ideas of things we can do to go at this in a proactive way, without a sure outcome that we would necessarily have expense reductions. We don't know. We would start a process to look at that and to see what could be done. And if the trash fee was something that could be eliminated for a year, maybe we do it the next year. or we know the tax thing and tax bills will come up, or the evaluation process will come up again in the fourth quarter. Maybe we'll have more money for tax relief this coming year. But I would suggest that we look at it as a process and a project that we can look at and do together. So those are my comments. Happy to talk to President Letterman about that idea. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Councilor Allen. Councilor Davila, followed by Councilor Hurst.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do promise that I will be brief, and I'm going to take my words very carefully, what I'm going to say. First, I think that, as I said before, democracy requires robust, intense debate. And it's not the first time that I hear in this humble body talking or directly saying creating division or dividing the council. I have a lot of respect for each one of my colleagues. I hope they all feel the same way about me. I hope. But we are not supposed to be all holding hands and singing Kumbaya in Court Street. I didn't come here to sing Kumbaya with all of you. I came here to work on behalf of the city of Springfield with the residents. And yeah, that takes working with people, being proactive, being moving the ball forward, giving in. But it seems to me that whenever, we always, for whatever reason, it's like, if you don't give in my way, then you're creating problems. Oh, now it's not the right time. When is the right time then? What is the right time? I would like to remind my esteemed colleagues that during the task factor, I did propose adding more money to the pension, and the administration said no. They said no. Well, and I did say at the time, I'm not the mayor. He's the mayor. The mayor is the mayor. This is how he wants it, how he sees his vision, and most of and this wise body agree with him. So be it. But I did propose putting more money towards a pension, and they said no. So I ask you, when is the right time? And to send this to committee, all it's going to be doing is killing it, because it's not convenient to some. Well, it is convenient to the people of Springfield. It is convenient to the people who are struggling. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Councilor Hurst.
I would just say it must be nice. Must be nice to be able to say, let's do this next fiscal year. And I would argue that you're in a very privileged position. If we were just talking about me, let's wait till next fiscal year. In fact, don't do it at all. It's not about me. The residents of Springfield need financial relief now. They don't need it 6 months from now. They need it now. And while we failed to do it thus far, why not now? This is only a resolution. You're right. But I believe in my heart of hearts that at some point in time, the administration is going to get the picture. Our people are suffering. And maybe you don't know anybody who's struggling to put food on the table. Maybe you don't know anybody who's struggling to buy formula. Maybe you don't know anybody that's struggling to put gas in their tank so that they can get to work to pay their utility bills. It's hard to do that when you're doing just fine for yourself, when you're making great money. It's hard to put in the work to say, what can I do? What can I do to make a difference in the lives of residents who are struggling? If you don't know them, then it's difficult for you to have compassion. I know them. I know them. And what we're asking for is for the administration to do something. And if this ain't it, sorry, Mom, but if this ain't it, then propose something. And I'll support that too. But to do nothing, it's just not acceptable. And the residents of Springfield deserve better. So you vote your conscience. And Jonah, you put it on, you put it in the paper. These councilors voted no, and these councilors voted yes for the resolution. And I'm gonna share it far and wide. And you explain yourself. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Hurst. We're going to go to Councilor Whitfield, followed by Councilor Curran, and then we're going to come back over here.
You know, Mr. President, I've had my hand up for a long time, so I hope
Councilor
you
Walsh,
eventually-
Councilor Walsh, I apologize, but your hand is not raised in the queue.
Well, then there's something wrong with the system, because I've had it raised for about 10 minutes,
Sir.
but I'll wait my turn.
Well, I'll
Just
make sure
so you know-
I'll make sure Councilor
Just so
Walsh.
you know, I speak.
Thank you, Councilor Walsh. I'll make sure, Councilor Walsh, that we get you in there as well. So I believe we said we're going to go to Councilor Whitfield, followed by Councilor Curran.
Not a problem.
Thank you. Sorry, Counselor Walsh, that it wasn't working for you. I'm gonna try to be brief too. I thought I was finished, but I wasn't, because I just have to echo the sentiments of my colleagues. Like, we do propose it at the time, and we do say it over and over and over again during the time when we're supposed to. And it goes on deaf ears that folks are struggling. I like the word privilege. I think that hit the net, privilege. And there's a bunch of people that just are not. They just are not. I remember not being privileged. I guess I got a little bit more privilege now because I make a little more money, and these bills, they affect me, but not as much as it affect others. And privilege, and it is just time to, like, really, if we say we want to live in an equitable economy that benefits everyone, we got to think about everyone. We got to think about everyone. And that's how you grow the city and the community. It can't be a selected few that we're thinking about. Yes, pension is important. We hear it every time too. Every time we hear pension, every time. We're not going to sugarcoat these things if we want to talk about what we talk about every time. We hear pension every time. And that's just one population of the community that's important. They are important. Retirees are so important. And this is why I keep speaking and fighting for them, because I know so many retirees that are struggling right now. I go to the grocery store. It's like, which thing am I going to pick? Yes, our retirees should not be living like that, but not just the city employees. Not just them. We have a whole community of retirees and others that need assistance, and yet we're not supposed to send a message. We're not supposed to do what we should do, the best thing that we could do at the right time when it's brought up. It isn't happening. So we can't stop talking about it, no matter how the message gets across, no matter if you like the way it came through or not, is the truth. And we gotta know that it's the truth. It's not to be divisive, but we can't agree. You know why? Because we live different lives. So we got to look at everybody's perspective. It's not just one perspective. There's retirees in every single community. Let's think of them. Let's think of all of us. Let's think of the moms and dads and single moms and single dads that need this additional help. I was a single mom, so I can relate personally. And then counselors don't like when I make it personal, but it's personal. We're supposed to be personal with our community. We're not supposed to be thinking no textbook way. It's personal. And I'm going to yield, Mr. President, because I know other folks got things that they want to say, but I want everyone to start thinking of our city and thinking of everyone equitably and how is it going to affect everyone instead of getting caught up on the technical writing of it all. The message is clear and it should be brought up. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Councilor Curran, followed by Councilor Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just have a question for TJ. I see him in the audience. If would you be able to?
CAFO plant.
Thank you, TJ. Is it the trash fee is not a tax? Is it possible under the guidelines of the $129 million for ARPA to utilize those funds as they would be COVID related if you argued we were in quarantine and obviously you would generate more trash, you would think. Is ARPA funds, the $129 million that the city was allocated, is there any ability to use that for one-time relief perhaps?
So I'd have to look into that question specifically. I don't know if I've looked at it for fees. I know as it relates to taxes, we're not allowed to reduce taxes or pay for pensions explicitly forbidden by the law. As far as a fee goes for a service, I have not dug in that far into it, but I certainly can ask and look into it and see if it's an eligible expense.
Yeah, I certainly would make that request. If we could find a relief from fees, the trash fee, I would argue, has a COVID relation in terms of generating trash. As we were in lockdown, we generate more trash than normal. And if it's possible to find a one-time, with this allocation for the $129 million, one-time relief from this fee and create certain parameters, not corporations, not property owners of 5,000 units or more, but perhaps senior citizens. If that is possible, I certainly would appreciate that answer, and I appreciate your...
Yeah, I'm happy to look into it.
Yeah, and I appreciate your diligence on the issue for the last 10 years or so. Thank you.
Councilor Fenton.
I think Councilor Letterman said he was going to call on Councilor Walsh next.
All right, my apologies. Councilor Walsh, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I wanted to talk about a few points tonight. One, as has been said tonight, there is a big difference between an order and a resolve. A city councilor cannot initiate a financial order, but there's no prohibition against any councilor bringing forward a resolution or resolve, making a suggestion. So anybody could bring anything up and you just vote the way you want on it. And the way I'm going to explain my vote is the way I look at a resolve, it's a sentiment. It's how you feel. Or it could be a message, which is being debated tonight. And Mr. Vice President, I have to agree with you that I believe the message here tonight is relief. We want to send a message that we'd like to see some relief. And I think that's what the bottom line is on this resolution, even if it doesn't carry the weight of an order. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Walsh. We'll go to Councilor Fenton, followed by Councilor Govan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I support the message of reducing taxes. You'd be hard-pressed to find any one of our 160,000 residents who wouldn't support that message. I also support the message of increasing investment in our city, investments in our unions, in our police force, like we did earlier this evening, or private ways, or sidewalks. But these things have costs. And to be as a member of this body, we need to take into consideration the implications of our decisions. Of course, we all agree with the sentiment of reducing or eliminating taxes. Nobody wants to pay a tax. It's a necessary consequence of baseline municipal services. Mr. Plant, I have a couple of questions for you. It's been said here quite a few times that we haven't done any tax relief and we ask for tax relief, but we never get tax relief. Could you just please, to the best of your ability, summarize the amounts of tax relief that have been put forward by the administration and approved by this council in the last 2 fiscal years?
So in the last 2 fiscal years, we've done 10 million this fiscal year for current fiscal year, fiscal 23. I believe we've done 2 to 3 million in fiscal 22. We've done $1 million in fiscal million or 2 in fiscal 21. So this is something that we are certainly open to having the conversations. We just need to do it in a fiscally responsible way.
And I feel like it's fair game because your position with the city was brought up earlier. How long have you been with the city?
It'll be 16 years in March.
And in that time, have you ever seen any measure remotely close to that level of tax relief for property tax owners from an administration?
No, we've never had the ability or the cash flow to be able to even offer it.
So 10 million this year, 2.3 million the year
2.5,
before?
I believe, on fiscal 22, and at least $1 million or so. And it may even go back a little further.
And in the aggregate 14 years that you spent with the city before that, how much in tax relief would you say?
Pretty much zero or close to zero.
If we were to do, as is being suggested, eliminate the trash fee, there would be implications on the budget that's already been approved for fiscal year 23. Was the trash fee built into the revenue mechanism for the budget that this council adopted back in June?
Yes, it was.
And so if we eliminated the trash fee and went forward with that sentiment, would that create one of the words you used to many years ago hear me use all the time, which is an operating deficit for the city?
So that is, so if the trash fee is eliminated, right now, we've set our tax rate, we've set our budget in place. I'm not even sure if there even is a way to reduce fiscal 23s and swap it out with additional revenue. It would probably be an operating deficit with trying to figure out the best way to move forward with DOR.
Okay. And the last point, thank you, Mr. Plant. The last point I just want to make is one about the average single-family tax bill in Springfield in general, because this is one of the statistics that's pointed to most regularly when comparing municipalities against each other. And it is true that there have been significant increases in taxes in the city of Springfield over the course of the last several years. But it's also true that many of those same increases have been borne by our brothers and sisters in surrounding communities all across Massachusetts. And the fact remains that Springfield continues to have one of the lowest average single-family tax bills in the Commonwealth. In fact, the only city in the Commonwealth that has an average bill that's lower than ours is North Adams. And if you go to MDOR's website, their average bill for 23 is $3,441. Springfield's average bill, $3,677. That is the only city that has a bill lower than ours. Some other examples of higher bills include Lawrence at over $3,800, Chicopee in the same range, Fall River over $4,000, and Holyoke $4,400. That's $800 more on average for a Holyoke resident. Pittsfield, $900 more on average. Worcester, $1,300 more on average, and the list goes on and on. So we need to be cognizant of the fact that, yes, taxes have increased, but we have made unprecedented measures to control that with efforts from this body and from the administration, and we remain on the very lowest tier of average tax bills in the Commonwealth. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Fenton. Councilor Govan.
Thank you very much. And thank you so much for that, Mr. Councilor Fenton, for those questions, and TJ for those responses. So I think because of the unprecedented revenue that we have in the city, we can do more, right? I don't know if you're comparing cities to other cities like Springfield, but as Councilor Hirsch said, I think the average income in our city is not more than $50,000. So an average homeowner would make $50,000. You need two incomes to survive in this economy for whatever reasons. And I think that we can do more because of the added additional income from MGM, from the cannabis tax revenue that we're getting. I think that we can do more. You heard from the residents themselves. I read their testimony today. And I'm just hoping that in the future, and I don't know if we can do it with the tax, with the trash bill, because I was always under the impression that my property taxes paid for my trash collection, correct? That's what I always thought. And they implemented a trash fee because of the fiscal negligence that was happening at the time. So now that the mayor has done an amazing job in bringing us to this point, and I commend him on that. I always give him the credit for that because he has been fiscally responsible. He's been fiscally conservative, which is great for our city and where we're at now. And I think that the residents have supported that for a very long time. But now, because of the unprecedented times that we're in, after COVID, jobs were lost, income was lost. And I just think that we can do more. And with that said, and I don't mean to be the last to speak, but I move the question.
Second.
Councilor Govan has made a motion to move the question. That motion to move the question has been seconded by Councilor Edwards. A 2/3 majority vote will be required to move the question. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. President, point of order.
Councilor Davila.
Thank you. And this is something that maybe we can research and look for next meetings. And I do appreciate the last councilor to speak, to take a vote on this. But I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, that when you move a question, you cannot move a question after you have spoken on the issue. According to Robert's rules, if I'm not mistaken, you have to, when you recognize speak, not speak, and move the question. So, but it's something that I would love to follow up. Maybe we should research, but it's something that I have been watching for a while. People speak, they say what they have to say, then they move the question, and those of us waiting don't get to speak. So, but no objection to moving the question, just wanted to bring that forward. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. The motion to move the question is recognized and properly seconded. Madam Clerk, please call the roll. A yes vote is a vote to end debate and proceed to a vote on the text before us. A no vote is a vote to continue debate on that text.
On moving the question, Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Whitfield. Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Brown. Away, Councilor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Click Bruce. Absent, Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Letterman.
Yes, the vote is sufficient. The question is called. Madam Clerk, please call the roll on this item. A yes vote is in favor of the item. A no vote is in opposition.
Could you repeat the item?
The item is the order that Councilor Hurst filed that has now been amended to a resolution. The item is item 10, which was the order to use $3.7 million to eliminate the trash fee. The language of that has been amended such that it appears as a resolution.
Thank you.
So on the resolution, Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Fenton.
No.
No, Councilor Perez.
No.
No, Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
No.
No, Counselor Brown. Away, Counselor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce, absent. Counselor Edwards.
No.
No, Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient and the resolution passes. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
The next item is the Federal Square Upper State Street Local Historic District.
This item is on for second and third step. Is there anybody here to speak to the item?
Good evening, Council. It's Vincent Walsh, 51 Catalina Drive, Chair of the Springfield Historical Commission. Just here for questions. Actually, there's one additional statement and then any questions you might have. At the last, when I presented at the December 5th, the question was asked about the school department. Shortly after, the planning department did reach out to the school department, and as of just a couple of days ago, there's still been no response. So if there's any questions on this, I'll take them now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is on for second and third step. Is there any deliberation? Seeing none, before we take the vote, is there a motion to invoke Rule 22C to allow this to pass with this final vote?
Motion so moved.
Motion has been made by Councilor Edwards to invoke Rule 22C. It was seconded by Councilor Perez. Madam Clerk, on the motion to invoke Rule 22C, please call the roll.
On 22C, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown. Away, Counselor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce, absent. Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient. Rule 22C is invoked. Is there any further deliberation on this ordinance? Seeing none, without objection, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on approval of the ordinance.
On approving the ordinance, Counselor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Perez.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Govan.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Brown. Away, Counselor Hurst.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Click Bruce, absent. Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Letterman.
Yes, the votes are sufficient. The ordinance is approved. Madam Clerk, is there any further business properly brought before this body at this time?
There is not.
Then we will stand adjourned. Everybody have a good evening. Get home safe.